Okay, here's what I got to say today. Black or white thinking is a fallacy. Balance is a dynamic process that often consists of wavering between one extreme and the other. It isn't static. And finally, things aren't always as they appear to be. For example, you can't always judge a book by its cover or a person by their labels or identities that they or someone else adopt. I am more diverse than I look. All right, so I just made 3 really, perhaps seemingly random points. So I'm going to reiterate those and attempt to tie them together here. Okay, so not necessarily in order. I said, I am more diverse than I look. What does that mean? All right, well, I don't know. I mean, I got this haircut that maybe is like, Karen-like. When I wanted to do the asymmetrical kind of bob thing, my hairdresser, who's much younger than me, said, okay, but just make sure it's not the Karen cut. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? So she said, no, there's actually memes about this. And yeah, I'm wearing an anarchy shirt right now, but honestly, this was just clean. But I'm a cis female, white female, very fair skin. My natural hair is just this kind of mousy color, and I'm college educated, like too much college, and apparently someone in my demographic I'm going to tie politics in here, y'all. I'm sorry, but I just am done trying to keep all my identities separate, okay? So this is my, biz page, but this is who I am, okay? Apparently, someone of my demographic would be most likely to have voted for Donald Trump. And I don't understand that. Okay, stay with me here, no matter who you may or may not have voted for, because I see you for more than just that, even if I don't really understand. Okay. But how do I say this? Pause. When I say I'm more diverse than I look, what I mean by that is that obviously if you're here on this channel, then it's probably a chance that you know that I am a person in long-term recovery with severe mental illness, co-occurring disorders, bipolar disorder. Okay, so that alone, you might not see it when you look at me. You might not see because I am a gender conforming cis female and I am married to a male, that I am a strong member of the LGBTQIA family. And so that's what I mean. And I got this anarchy shirt on today. Like I said, it's an old thing. And it was clean, but it kind of resonated. But now this is a label as well. What does anarchy actually mean? And this kind of brings me to my second point. Black or white thinking is a fallacy. So the idea that something is all this or all that is not really accurate. And it's a fallacy of thinking that I found myself getting into this today. But first, before I talk about that, let me explain, I had an old school acquaintance that was a big punk rock fan, and he would say, anarchy this, anarchy that. And we said, do you even know what anarchy means? What is anarchy? It's like total chaos, man. Well, Yes, on the one hand, maybe anarchy is chaos and mayhem, but it also really the ideal is ultimate freedom of the individual. I know this because I just Googled it before making this video. Ultimate freedom of the individual and non-governance. It's an ideal that speaks to perhaps people would govern themselves effectively, which doesn't necessarily imply chaos. The first thing that pops up is not accepting the leadership in place. And I'm just going to leave that whole idea to the side. And let's talk about this black or white thinking. So, me personally, I didn't even introduce myself in this video, but not a doctor, a person, as I said, in recovery, and I'm really excited because I am beginning a new venture on Monday, and an opportunity that I'm very, very excited about to work in my field of recovery. However, this is a really big transition for me and my family, and so I'm nervous about it. And I don't ever pretend to have everything all together. On the contrary, I think that I show a lot of vulnerability and clearly unscriptedness on these videos. But I maintain the ideal of having all my shit together someday. And that's where I was falling into this really like black or white, all or nothing is another way of saying it. All or nothing thinking. That I was like, I had this one day this week where I had to myself, and I had, my child was with the grandparents, and like, this is the only day I ended up having all week to try to do a gazillion things. And so I found myself thinking, oh my gosh, if I don't get everything in order, and I mean, like, there's a lot of disorder in my home, okay? This didn't happen overnight. The struggle is real. Just think like adult ADHD times a couple decades, and you might have an idea. Plus a toddler, okay? So I realized, and I guess knowing as a part of the battle, that I was thinking, good God, like I have to reorganize this whole house and have it all done today before Monday. And if I don't, then I'm going to fail, and the whole week, month, the rest of the month is just going to be horrible. And it means that I'm failing as an adult, and I'm never going to have time again to try to do any of this stuff. And like, I'm never going to be able to just sit around and hang out with my kid. It's like, I had to stop and be like, wait a second. Well, that isn't true. But I guess if I hadn't, like, I don't pretend to really have any original thoughts. I've shared that in other videos. Like, I really just like pick up things that I've learned from other people. And I probably have had a couple original thoughts here and there, but it was a really great program that I participated in called Mood Lifters, and that was where I learned different like fallacies of thinking, these thinking patterns that we get into that are super dysfunctional, and if you can identify them, and then you can use tools to replace them. So the catastrophizing is kind of another one. It often goes along with that all or nothing thinking, so I'm kind of doing that. And so I put it out there in front of myself to look at and say, wait a second, now let's examine the evidence. Is this really true? Am I not ever going to have any more free time because I'm going back to work full time after, after being off for a while? And so it's like, yeah, it's a big change, but yes, I in fact, I'm going to work for a company that really it seems to put their money where their mouth is as far as respecting and allowing for work-life balance. And hey, even if they didn't, I don't ever have to, nothing's permanent, right? And even if they didn't and I worked 50 hours a week, like there's still a lot of other hours in the week, it's just, there's a lot more gray than that. And hey, Rome wasn't built in a day, and it wasn't destroyed in a day either. So, I just had to kind of like reframe my thinking and go, it isn't all this or all that, right? And take a breath. It's gonna be okay. I can look at what I can do and what doesn't need to be done, and know that things can be done little by little. And a lot of these sort of like long-term projects, it calls attention to the fact that I really would love to have them done, and that life continues to happen in shades of gray. Which brings me to my last point, which is that balance is dynamic. Again, not an original thought, but I'm gonna roll with it. Okay, so, and I believe I actually got this from because I have a background in dance and movement science, and so the idea, let's say that somebody is holding a pose of balance, right? And one might think of that as static, right? Not moving. And yet there are, depending on how your balance is, might be really going like this a lot, or it might just be really fine-tuned, right? Small muscle movements that are moving back and forth to keep the body in that state of balance. And so I have the label of being bipolar. I had my mind blown last year when I went to a new shrink that looked at some of my history and my story, and I had about 3 years of tracking my mood daily, and they took a look at that and said, you don't fit the profile of someone with bipolar disorder. And I went through the whole journey of accepting my diagnosis, receiving treatment. I got 3 opinions when I first got this diagnosis in 2009, and a lot of my friends and even family did not accept it. It said, that doesn't fit you, Rosie. But I guess after being like institutionalized and like just legit being disabled at a point in time, it was like, okay. But I would say that I was the NOS label for a while, right? There's bipolar 1 in the US. There's bipolar 1, there's bipolar 2, and there's bipolar NOS, not otherwise specified. So it's basically like you don't neatly fit into bipolar 1, and you don't neatly fit into bipolar 2. So we're just going to throw you into that. Now, my understanding is that in Europe, they use they call it bipolar spectrum disorder. I did say that I'm not a doctor. Nothing that I say is meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease, okay? Just putting that out there. I know just enough to be dangerous, but I really, really picked up on that from an early time, and this was even, not to be like a hipster, to put another label out there, but not to be like I was doing this before, but before they changed autism to ASD, autism spectrum disorder. I think that we might do that with bipolar eventually, because I feel that there's probably a lot of us bipolars that don't neatly fit into that 1 or 2. There's a spectrum, and also it's like, the label is like useful to a point, and then it isn't, right? Like a label it's not always just what you see is what you get. And we can say that for a lot of people, and I have to remember that when I am meeting someone else as well. No matter what cover they present to the world, no matter what labels or identities or diagnoses or what they look like physically, how they dress, who they voted for, what they put on their social media. At the end of the day, we're humans. And I believe that we all have the potential to be good and to see the good in one another. I know that is a challenging kind of belief for a lot of people to accept, including myself, because there are definitely people who do horrible things. We put that all the way to the side too. Okay, because that is not my point. And I don't really edit these things, so I'm not going to edit that out. Okay, I got to reel this back in. So I guess if I try to do that, let's just think of maybe, as I said, that I'm more diverse than I look. I think most people are more diverse than they look, right? We all, like, you see the tip of the iceberg, and that might be totally different from one day to the next. The idea of like all or nothing or black or white thinking or whatever is really a fallacy. And balance is it's a dynamic process. It's moving. It's not stagnant, right? Like you put something on a scale, and I identify very heavily with this because I'm a Libra, and I'm a very Libra, which is also why I think I like to try to see both sides of everything, and why sometimes I've had a reputation for like arguing. I just think it's debating, but it's just one way of looking at things. If you think about a traditional scale and you put something on that scale, before it balances, it goes whoop, 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 right? So even though I had somebody question the bipolar diagnosis last year, I think I went through some soul searching, and it fits. It fits for a lot of reasons, but it's not my whole story. I think of the bipolar body brain as a precise feedback mechanism. Okay? So, it's like a precision-tuned instrument where it can perform brilliantly when it's in balance. That balance doesn't mean stuck, but it doesn't mean this, right? It's more like this. And the blessing in disguise that I have experienced is that if there's something, I'm not giving my body the right fuel, I'm not giving my brain the right rest, a good sleep schedule, quiet time in nature, exercise, therapy, accountability with someone else, meds. If usually for me that is a part of it, but not always. Then like my body and brain and emotions are going to tell me quickly, right? People like think of, if you're still listening, by the way, you're awesome, because I know this is getting long, but this is like one of the reasons why I just decided I am done with not trying to tell people about being bipolar, because it's like there's so much stigma, and I guess maybe I would be considered a high functioning bipolar, maybe somebody that's like not as extreme on the spectrum of bipolar. But let me tell you, I've been there. I've had some moments, and I shoot, I mean, I kind of hypo right now, I think. But it's, it's here. It's not, I'm not going to be going in the hospital, and I'm aware of it. So it's that awareness, it's that feedback loop, right? So now the times that I was really, extreme in my episodes, I was, part of my story was using substances, and so I was, drinking heavily. I was burning the candle at both ends. I, was not getting enough sleep. I had extreme stress in my life, and, the type of things that, the way I think about it is like, some people's body, brain might not have reacted as extremely, but they might have just kind of continued down a road like that for years and years, like not really treating themselves that well, and then just like die early. And I know that sounds kind of grim, but that's really the way I feel. So I've kind of been likened to the Princess and the Pea in the past. I didn't know what that was. I had to look it up. I'm very sensitive. I mean, I am, but I'm not. I think I have pretty thick skin. But, I definitely would, feel the pea. And I'd be like, I need my satin pillow and my eye mask and, my lavender. And do I need that all the time? No, but that's like a part of my self-care that I honestly feel like a lot of people don't know about, or they don't practice. But for me, it's like a necessity. If I want to stay balanced, if I want to stay sane, and I want to function. And that's why I have called this channel Bipolar Brilliance, because the bipolar brain body can be brilliant when it's balanced. And there are numbers of tools that a person can use. Maybe you don't use them all the time. It's like an a la carte kind of thing to maintain that. And there's no shame in being bipolar, in having, even, some people might be sensitive to the idea of saying being rather than having. Whatever. To each their own, right? So anyway, I guess that's what I got to share today. It was quite a bit. Long video. I wasn't even going to post, but I have been told that some of these sharings have helped other people, even people that I've never even met. And so, it's bigger than me now. But it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. More will be revealed, and a million other cliches, one day at a time. I appreciate you listening, and I hope that this helped brighten up your day in some way. If you have a friend or even a small group that you think this could also help in some way, forward it along. Follow me on social media, and let's connect. Have a good one.